Now, we did some research on engagement, and we found, basically, that 26% of people around the world, globally, were engaged, 45% were partially engaged, and nearly 30% were disengaged. That was a global part of the survey. In the Asia-Pacific region, half of the people were disengaged. And in Japan, shockingly, we found 77% of the Japanese people were disengaged. Now, I know myself that when you ask Japanese people to fill out a survey and you give them a choice between 1 and 5, they'll all pick 3, right? That's a very typical response in Japan when you're doing surveys. And we know that Japanese people are very conservative in talking about their companies. But even saying that, we found that that was still a very high level of disengagement. And other surveys done by other survey companies like Gallup show the same sorts of results. Towers Watson showed the same sorts of results. Across the board, whenever they did the Japanese and the foreign groups as a same test, the results always came out, the Japanese scores were lower. So even if you take out the cultural component, generally speaking, Japanese engagement scores are pretty low. Now, we found that there were 3 things that really triggered that feeling of being valued and people becoming engaged. And they're obvious things. Satisfaction with the immediate manager. That's a very obvious thing. How you feel about your boss is going to have a big impact on your engagement. If you're feeling really valued by your boss and included, you're going to feel more enthusiastic. The second one there is belief in senior leadership. Now, in any organization, the boss, the head, is like the captain of the ship. You know, in the old days, you got on a ship with sails and it was made out of wood. And if you got to the other end, you were pretty fine and pretty happy about that. And you're really thankful for the captain for getting you through the storms and the waves, and traveling a long distance with very little navigation equipment in those days. Today, we still have a sense of that in companies. We've seen so many companies go down. We've seen so many companies go out of business that people really expect senior leadership to deliver. And their belief that senior leadership have got the strategy right, that senior leadership have got the direction right, is very, very important. Now, we know that's obvious, but do they know what the senior leadership direction is? Do they know why they're taking the company in this direction? Are they really understanding the rationale? Because often what happens is the middle management, they remind me of those buildings. You see a building being constructed and you can see straight through the building and you can see the floors, the concrete floors. Middle management remind me often of those concrete floors. Information trickles down from the seniors to the middle managers, and that's where it stops, right there. They don't share it with the people below. They don't tell their own teams what they've heard from senior management. It stops right there. So the people at the bottom often have no idea the strategy or the direction or the rationale from senior leadership. So the last one there is pride in the organization. Pride in the organization. So that you're happy to tell your family, yes, I worked for Dale Carnegie Training Japan. You're happy to tell your friends, yes, I work for this company. Now, in Japan, we have black companies, you know, this list of black companies, and your company's name is in that list. Imagine. You are listed as a black company in Japan because you treat your workers so poorly. How would you feel about working for a company like that? Where's the pride in your organization? I'm not going to name names because we all know who they are, right? But you don't want to be one of those companies. Imagine what the engagement levels must be around there. It'd be pretty low, right? So if these 3 are working, and that pride in the organization, again, it's a bit like telling your partner you love them. It's a bit like telling your team you appreciate them. It's not a bad idea to keep talking positively about the organization. But often what happens as leaders, in big organizations, the leader of that division or section will whine and whinge and complain about senior management have got it all wrong, or that other division, my God, they're clueless. And they talk down their company to their team because sometimes they imagine that bonds us together. It's like us against them, except that them is their own company. It's a crazy idea. These sorts of things happen. So as leaders, we have to be constantly recognizing, to have pride in the organization, we have to talk up the company. We have to be very positive, and we don't talk badly about other divisions. Right? So little things can make a big difference.